Hi, and welcome back to Hot Off the Press, the show about new releases and the authors that bring them to you. I am your host, Jim Nettles, and we've got a stack of new releases to take a look at. So let's go around and see who is here and what they're bringing in this time. So, Layla, you're up first.
All right. Hi, I'm Layla Dorine. I write LGBTQ fiction and romance, heavy on the bikers, rockers, shifters, daddies, littles, and all things in between. And today I'm here to talk to you about Broken Chorus, which is my fourth Road to Rocktoberfest book, and it will be out on October 22nd.
Jenny?
Hi, I'm Gini Koch. I write the Alien Cat and Kitty Cat series for dog books. I also write under a variety of other pen names in all lengths and genres. And I am here to talk about Natural Born Outlaws, Book One in the Legend of Belladonna, by me writing as E. Stanton.
And Berta.
Hi, I'm Berta Platas, and I co-author with Nancy Knight, who is teaching a class tonight and can't be here. We write the Bay Corners Cozy Mystery Series, and the new one is one written just by me called A Fine Ground Murder, which is out in stores now.
So, when we start taking a look at any story, the first big question is, what's the big setup? What's the world I'm falling into, tripping over? What biker rocker is going to step on my kneecaps as I go by? Yeah. So let's dive a little bit just into what's the setup? What's the big plays that we're running into? So, Layla, I'll let you take the stage for the first one.
All right. So we are back to Rocktoberfest, and this is our fourth year doing it. Rocktoberfest is pretty much something that's designed after Burning Man. It takes place out in the desert. Bands come from all over. Fans come from all over. Little village-like town gets set up, and it's about a 4-day festival with people lingering, a day or two before, a day or two after. We did our first one back in 2020 and took a break. We took 1 year off, and we came roaring back. We're actually filled and signed for 2025 already. So this year's band was at last year's Rocktoberfest. And they are a band that I have been dying to write. They've been in my head for a while, but they've had a little shakeup. Their lead singer, who's also one of their key guitar players, his sibling has passed away, and he was given custody of the 3 children because both parents actually were killed in an accident. And he's left the band. And he's left the band in some turmoil because there were some members who were very against, why can't you just give them to another family member type thing? You're messing with our, what we've done, blah, blah, blah. And you had 2 that really supported him and are willing to stand and help any way they can. One of them being his love interest. So there's been some friction the last 6 months. Because not only has he been kind of keeping the love interest at bay, not wanting to lose him like the 2 band members that quit, but he's been trying to encourage him to step up and take his place. And let me tell you, trying to get Aaron, this is actually the second year I've tried to finish this book. Last year it did not come together. I wrote an entirely brand new book instead. Trying to get Aaron to step up and be the singer of this band took a good year and a half, but I am proud to say that it did happen, and they will go on stage later on this month.
All right, Jenny, so let's find out about A.E. Stanton's new series kicking off.
This is actually, this book right here, is actually the reason I write. My agent signed me on Touched by an Alien, but she loved this book. And it took a really long time to find a publisher that believed in the book as much as my agent and I do. This is about the West's most infamous female outlaw, Belladonna, and she's part of the Wolf Pack. They rescue her from a horrible situation when she is 12 during the Civil War, and she basically gets raised as an outlaw. There's some other twists and turns in her life along the way, but when you first meet her, basically, her husband, the Wolf, is gunned down in the street by former friends. But it's very, there's a lot of Well, a lot of history and a lot of research went into this. I'm an Old West expert because of this series. Uh, like after, all the books you see behind me, those are all books about the Old West, right? So, so I weave in a lot of real people of the day, the bad men, the shooters, the lawmen, and so forth, the cattle ranchers, so on and so forth. And I've done all the research, so it's historically accurate. Basically, it's set at a time when all of the people that are in it, you can't say they weren't where I tell you they are. So that took a lot of planning and playing around. But basically, Belle is now on the hunt for both the people that murder her husband, but also the man that she considers the most evil, Enrique Vasquez, aka El Duque, and he is brilliant but absolutely insane. He's done some horrible things to her. He's done horrible things to other people, and her goal is she will kill him or she will die trying. And she gets involved with various people romantically along the way, including someone that's basically there's going to be two camps, I'm sure, on who's rooting for Ben and who's rooting for Preacher. So she's got a lot going on there. And let me point out that the horse Tornado is a very important character both to her and in the book. So smartest horse you've ever met.
And Elle Marie, I tell you what, we'll do intros in just a minute. So Berta, let's talk a bit about this particular cozy mystery, whether we're diving into, is that coffee or is that cat food?
It's coffee. It's coffee beans.
I know the whole series.
This series is based in Charleston in an imaginary enclave, like a shopping area. And like all cozy mysteries have to have like a tight knit town area. We didn't want to do all of Charleston. We didn't want to kill real people.
I've got a list in Charleston, so just let me know about the next time.
So we put in an imaginary one. We peopled it with all kinds of interesting, quirky folks. And my character, Carmen Acevedo, is a Cuban American baker. She has a bake shop. And she has moved to Charleston to get away from her family in Miami, who are very powerful dark witches. And she vowed never to use magic, except in the first book in the series. She needed to get the truth out of somebody, and she did some magic. And now they're on to her. And in this book, they come and surprise her.
Come knocking on the door.
Yes. And she's got this very smart cat who does a lot of the computer research for her.
And Elle Marie, welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My apologies, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight, though.
Want to do an intro?
I will do that. I know two out of the three of you. Nice to see you two again, and nice to meet you. I am Elle Marie Wood. I'm a psychological horror author. I write screenplays, novels, short stories, novellas, everything except poetry, even everything except graphic novels. And I think I've said that maybe 4 times, so I need to do it now because it's kind of getting to be a pattern. I want to be able to say that I've written one now next time I talk. So we'll see. But I get
with Bobby. Bobby will help you.
Listen, don't, because I will reach out to him. My upcoming release is actually going to be a nonfiction. This will be my second nonfiction book. I'm kind of excited about it. It's called The Horror Aesthetic: Essays from the Dark Corners of the Genre. So I'm talking about, really, it's usually if we're talking nonfiction, I can write something in 4 months, a novel. But this has taken me maybe 8 to 10 years to put together. And I don't know that I was thinking of putting it together on purpose. It wasn't a purposeful collection, but then in the end, it really kind of, there was a line connecting all of the essays. So I kind of thought, maybe there's something here. So here we are. I have it, if I can show my little beautiful cover.
Yeah. Ooh, nice.
Oh, wow.
I love this cover so much.
Who did this cover?
This is Maya. Maya did this cover.
All right, perfect. You want to talk a little bit more about it, and we'll loop back around and dive a little bit deeper into some of the essays. But what really brought you to putting this particular collection together? Because I know we've talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, life really. I think, ultimately it's kind of the as a woman writing horror fiction, as a Black person in horror fiction, as just a parent in horror fiction, a person who's been writing for decades in horror fiction, I've seen a lot. I think my first publishing contract might have been in 98, which is whatever. We're not going to add that up. Okay. But it's been quite some time ago. And that said, I was before the ebooks. I was back when ebooks were on CD. Remember when we used to have that, and so it wasn't like what we have now. And in Amazon, I think it's even pre-Amazon, right? It was so it was a long time ago. So marketing was different. How you got the word out was different. Self-publishing had a whole different connotation. Getting a large press deal had a whole different weight. And the methods are different. And then the landscape in and of itself, in terms of who's telling the stories, has changed so drastically over the years. And in fact, we've seen a real resurgence of horror in the past 3 to 5 years. Yeah. So that's probably giving it too many years. I think maybe just three. And so it's really, I guess, just sort of being involved and then watching things change and then being part of that change has been interesting and sometimes demoralizing, sometimes really heady and exciting. And I guess I just captured these pieces in my thoughts. It almost feels like a journal, but they're essays in that, I over that same course of time, I've changed careers. And so now I'm a professor at college. So I like to hear, myself talk. And so I talk to my students about
That's not new.
You do this. Now all of us know this. But I talk to my students about some of these things, and not only about the horror fiction, but just being an author in general. And it just dawned on me one of these days to just collect these pieces, because there are a lot of them, and see if they made any sense. And when you put them all together, it comes together not like one of those, nonfiction tomes you're using for research when you're trying to write a novel about a specific topic, but more, it's kind of like memoir. And memoir and academic presentation combined, which gives you the personal feel that connects to you because it really relates to something that you're interested in, as opposed to a whole lot of research that's just kind of out on the periphery. So yeah, it just, life, back to the original answer, life made me put this together.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into all the stuff that we're bringing out. So Jenny, I'm gonna start with you on this one. Let's talk a little bit deeper about the characters. Who are we hanging out with in this? What's really pushing them? What's really driving them? And of course, you're bringing forth the lovely love triangle. Kill off the husband so that she can have other interests.
Oh, she's had other interests way before. Annabelle Grace Smith is who gets rescued by the wolf pack at age 12, and within a few months, the leader of the wolf pack, Joshua Stark, has married her. Now, Joshua's not that old; he's like 20, 21, but it's still a giant age gap. So she's raised by outlaws, but Aaron Priest, aka the preacher, who has also joined the wolf pack and is Joshua's best friend, is not really approving of the fact that Joshua has married a 12-year-old. There's a lot of spirituality mixed in with this, and basically, because Belle is saved by a band of outlaws, she changes them. They change her. They teach her how to survive and how to be the best there is of everything. She's the best writer, you're the best with a gun, you're the best with a knife. And she's very, very smart. But she changes all of them. These men would have been horrific people. But because they're basically protecting and raising this particular little girl, they're never as evil as they could be, and they end up on the side of right a lot more than they would have. But that's Belladonna of the early years, where the book starts. Bella's 27, and so she's been married to Joshua for 15 years. But you find out very quickly, Joshua is not a faithful husband. She's the only woman he ever loved, but that doesn't mean she's the only woman he ever slept with. He was one of those, irresistible guys, the twinkling blue eyes, the big smile, and he could sleep with any woman he wanted to and did. Due to several events that happened when she's like about 17, 18, Belle realizes anything you can do, I can do better. And she sleeps with somebody very, very blatantly in front of him and the pack because she can at that point. And that person happens to be Johnny Ringo. Just FYI. There are a lot, like I said, we'll just start with the real people and keep rolling through. She leaves the pack frequently, so she has met and become lovers with Wyatt Earp, and their breakup fight is the thing of legend. Bat Masterson and Doc Holliday. So she's actually very close to Doc. Doc is probably the one guy she might leave the pack for, but she never does. And she doesn't leave really because of Preacher, because in reality, she's in love with him and he's in love with her, but neither one of them has ever admitted it. He thinks it's wrong, and so she thinks it's wrong too. Into their hunt for Curly Dan Wilson and Snake Taylor, who are the guys who gunned down Joshua in the street. By the way, this is not a spoiler. This is chapter 1. They meet Marshal Benjamin Davidson, one of the few marshals out there that's not a deputy. He's actually assigned. He's got a lot of power. He's riding alone, and he ends up entangling with Belle, the remains of the wolf pack, and other bad men along the way. Belle basically saves him from being gunned down in the street by Dave Rudabaugh and his gang. So a lot of action happens. You're going to meet every possible bad man, lawman, etc. in the West at the time. In one way or the other, or they'll be referred to because one of a joke that isn't really a joke is Belle rightly knows everyone. At the time in the Old West, there were, it was like there were 6 non-American Indians to all the American Indians around, and the American Indians that were there, particularly the Apaches, wanted to kill you. Rightly, if you look at it from their viewpoint. Which Belle does. She is a member of the last renegade Apache tribe as well. Most people do like her, as it turns out. So she supports anyone who is supporting the renegade Apaches, and they help too, and blah blah blah. They don't really come. They're mentioned a lot in the first book. They come in strongly in book 2, which always outnumbered, never outgunned, which is coming out next year. So basically, Belle is on a mission to rid the world of as many bad men as she can before she dies. And the 3 in her sights, which end up becoming 4 in her sights. It's Curly Dan and Snake Wilson, former friends who murdered her husband. Vasquez, Mr. Crazy Genius, evil baddie who's got both Mexico and the U.S. In a stranglehold, and a bounty hunter who it turns out has a very, very warped vendetta against her. He's wrong. She isn't the person that killed his family, but he thinks she is, and that's good enough for him. So that's what she has to do in between. Stop the war between the U.S. and Mexico, save an item of vast religious significance and great personal risk, and all those other things. And
how thick is this book?
Okay.
It doesn't slow down a lot. Let's put it that way.
Wow.
Yeah. Belle packs every hour full of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds awesome, though.
She's why I write. This book, these characters are why I write. Belle and the Pack are why I write. Everybody else added on, but Belle and the Pack are why I write. They're the characters whose voices were screaming at me so loud that I finally had to write to shut them up. You don't get any other thing. They're like, I keep telling my fans, there is no Kitty without Belle. There is no nothing without Belle. Without this character, this particular book, I don't write. So...
See, we should have discussed that on the Why Do You Write panel.
On the
Why Do You Write? I just did that panel.
I wasn't. Oh, I've been traveling too much. I think I couldn't do the Why Do You Write panel.
I didn't
That's all
know
right.
about the Why Do You Write panel. I'm thinking I would have loved to have had it.
We're gonna have
It
to
was
do another
very
round of
fun.
it. We're gonna
Yes.
have to do another one anyway, but that's
Yeah.
not why we're here. All right, so Berta, let's find out a little bit more about who we're hanging out with in Charleston, because it's always a lovely place to go for a pint or a cup of coffee.
Well, this whole series rose out of my friend's love of cozy mysteries, and we just read them voraciously. There's so many out there, but after you read the two that are in there in the series, where's the rest of them? So we figured that a way to satisfy fans and get lots of books out there, there's three of us writing these books. And the first one that came out, which is the one with the cover with the Christmas tree, we brought it out last Christmas. It was just before Christmas. It doesn't work out when it's like that.
You've got it
there you
over
go.
your shoulder.
See it a little bit there. Yeah. Mhm.
I'll stick my head on it. And
You'll be the
and
angel
it's,
topper.
Nancy
It'll be
Knight
okay.
and Maureen Hardigree, and each one of us writes a different character who lives in this town, and they're all friends, and they work together to solve these mysteries. So we write at one anthology a year, and then each of us writes a standalone book based on our character. But the other characters also write in it, so we're always having to write to each other. It's like, I did this, I did that. Like my baker Carmen was only going to have Cuban pastries in her shop, and then I read some pages that Maureen was writing, and she said Maureen owns a bookstore across the street, and she said I skipped over to Sweet Havana and I picked up some sour cream donuts, and I went, oh my God, I got to get a donut fryer. Making donuts now. Don't do that to me. So yeah, we have boundaries too. If I had not wanted her to do that, I could have told her. Instead, I just broadened my horizons.
It's cheaper to buy one of those in the book series than it is to have to install it.
Yeah.
And she acquires a baker in that first novella to help her out, because one person cannot run a shop like that and make hundreds of loaves of bread and all that. So she gets a baker who is a 6 foot tall felon named Becky, and Becky is a very taciturn person, but she grows on you in subsequent books.
Sounds fun.
So Lisa, with this one, is there a particular one of the essays that really sticks with you? I mean, I know you've wrote them all, and I know if it made it in here, they're all impactful. But is there one that would tell people what they're getting out of this? Is there one of the essays that you just can't not talk about?
And that's such a hard question, to be honest. I mean, if I look at
Nobody said I played fair.
But yeah, and you warned me I was going to be in trouble for being late. So I see what you're doing here.
Don't let him make you feel too bad. We started like 25 minutes late. So you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, yeah, no worries. You've missed almost nothing. Right.
That makes me feel better. Thank you. I don't know. I honestly, man, there's so many. I'm looking at the table of contents now to see if I can pick one, because the horror of hair does stand out to me a lot. Horror of hair is like, it's about women, and it's about how, body horror, but not in the way that you think of it, and what horror actually means, or rather, I'm sorry, what hair means to women and how it can be manipulated, and how the horror genre does that. So also how we speak through our hair and in horror. So that one really does stand out for me. But then, I mean, there's, oh goodness, I mean, horror and romance, doppelgangers in need. I mean, it's a short one, but I mean, they're cousins, right? So I talk about how they look like opposite ends of the spectrum, but not really when you think about it, So I like that one because I think it gets people thinking about horror in a different way. Because it's not always just blood and guts and gore. I mean, that's not really, I don't even write that. I write psychological horror. So
that is marriage. So,
well, and then there you have it, right? You get it. But then there are fun ones like The Time I Thought Too Much About the Theory of Relativity, Reincarnation, and Leaving Water Out Overnight. I'm not going to spoil that one for you because that is the most exciting. It's silly.
That's one essay with all those things in it.
Right.
Okay.
It's exciting. It's fun. And I don't want to spoil it because it's really interesting. So no, does anything stand out? Write What You Know and Other Lies. I mean, how can anything stand out? I gave you four, all these titles I'm giving you are so unique in and of themselves because they really speak to what we as horror authors think about when we're trying to write. And that last one, Write What You Know and Other Lies, it pertains to everyone. It's not about horror at all.
Yeah.
And so I think that we can all really find something in this book. And while I happen to be a psychological horror author, I like mashups every now and then. I think they're fun, nice to play with. So I've written in other genres as well and combined them with some horror elements, or, I mean, to be frank, it's really horror combined with some of y'all's other elements. Elements of y'all, but horror-based. I don't know, that's what it is. But
it's a cozy mystery horror.
It's about stretching your skill and knowing that it's okay to do so. And all the things that come about when you're having those thoughts and those discussions, because they're real. I mean, I think that we all, when we meet each other, we end up having some kind of conversation beyond genre, and it's all writing specific, but the problems are the same, if you will, and the hurdles are the same. So yes and no. I don't know how to answer that question. I think I've kind of given you the best answer I can, and that's a non-answer. They all hit you in different ways. I mean, I talk about the cultivated bias and Black Gothic. Like, it's so, oh my God, we dive into, Get Out and what Jordan Peele's work has done for the genre. And we talk, because, I'm a film major as well. I write screenplays. So that kind of stuff is still kind of in me. So I talk about film a lot. But I talk about what it means to use Black bodies and images in certain ways that mean something on screen and directly impact people in life, because so much imagery is, and it's so in depth. So does that hit? Yes, it's a very important essay, but as is, Write What You Know and Other Lies, as is, Why Not Horror Women, for female horror authors, because when you think about how Anne Radcliffe and Mary Shelley started the genre, but you never hear about them. It's as though women did. And for a long time, women weren't respected as horror authors in general. And we were using, pen names so people didn't think we were women. It's kind of crazy when you think about how the genre began. So there's nothing really outweighs the other. And that's kind of the fun of it, because you can pick this thing up any day and pick an essay and it'll be important to you. And then the next day, the next one will be important to you for other reasons. So.
In other words, you got to pick it up to find out what's on the inside.
Got to pick it up. But seriously, that Theory of Relativity one is hilarious. And there's a true story in it too. So yeah.
And I believe I know that story. In fact,
I think you do. And that was one of those late night conversations, because that's the only time you can have that kind of conversation. The story is really good.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
All right, Layla, let's dive a little bit deeper into who we're hanging on with on stage and off.
Okay. Well, Hawk and Aaron are my main characters. Hawk is the former singer. They all formed the band together. They were childhood friends. They grew up together, but Aaron grew up a little different. One of the interesting things about writing Aaron was that I took a lot of my personal musical journey and wrote them into Aaron. Where the other characters had more freedom to explore their instruments and explore whatever kind of music they wanted, it was fascinating to me looking back. I grew up learning to sing in the church choir, and my first instrument was the organ. My grandmother's from the South, and I grew up in a predominantly AME church. And you went to choir practice, you sang. But when we moved to Massachusetts, my dad's family was Catholic, and my mom started taking me to the Catholic Church. And by then, I'd already been introduced to rock and roll and heavy metal, and I'd already had my first guitar. And so it was a totally different vibe to be stood up in front of the priest and dressed down because for some reason my mom did not realize that some of the music I listened to was like Guns N' Roses and Slayer and all these other bands, which is funny because my stepdad bought Guns N' Roses, brought it home, heard it, and tried to take the CD back. Like when he realized what he bought me, it was chaos. He tried to, like, the posters came down, the CDs, they were trying to go, and I'm like, I'm in love with this music. And it kind of became a push-pull where in the end, at like 12 or 13, where I really started getting good at the guitar, I stopped attending church because I was tired of being told, you can't come and worship and then go play the devil's music. And I'm like, well, how can any music that's beautiful be the devil's music? And if it is the devil's music, then fine, okay, I will just play the devil's music because it's beautiful and I love my guitar. So all of that is in Aaron. And because of that, he will play, but he will not sing. And he's got a beautiful voice, but he will not sing for the band. It's like one piece of joy that they kind of ruined for him, and he's struggling to move out of it. And it's something that took me years to do. I would, as much as I'd play, I would not sing because all songs were beautiful to me, and I could not just get through the chaos of why is one song good and one song bad. I don't want to sing any of them except in my car or in my kitchen where nobody can hear, because I don't want to be admonished for singing the wrong song. So all of that is written into Aaron, and it's why he doesn't want to take the stage. So as Hawk is trying to push to get him to fill that spot, because in reality, Hawk didn't want to leave the band. He felt obligated because when his brother passed, he was designated the guardian of the kids, and he wants to be responsible and he doesn't want to cause any more upheaval. They're little. I mean, I'm the cutest thing is writing this little 4-year-old, 6-year-old, and 7-year-old that eventually worm their way into the hearts of the band. There is a teddy bear tea party where every band member is dressed up in these Victorian Gothic, costumes, each with a teddy bear sitting. And we're talking tatted up, heavy metal guys in Gothic regalia, in Victorian, with a teddy bear that they've been assigned, and they're lifting the teacup, with the fake tea for the teddy bear while they're sipping their tea, and it all comes to be because little Ella, who is my 7-year-old, was invited to a tea party, and she was told you can only bring one bear, and she was worried that her other bears would feel neglected. And Erin is up there for the weekend, and she can't sleep because she comes out to the kitchen and she's looking for a snack. And he can tell, something's on her mind. And he gets her a snack, and she's telling him about the teddy bear party. And he goes, well, what if I make you a spinner? And we'll set every bear around the spinner, and we spin the spinner. Whichever bear the spinner lands on gets to go to the party. But then that bear will host a party for all the other bears. So every bear gets to go to the party. And Hawk is listening in the hallway because Hawk is struggling with, this is his party boy, but on and off boyfriend. They have lived the heavy metal lifestyle, and he just doesn't know. He's struggling. He tells the kid at one point, the youngest one, Danny, is like, why are SpongeBob and Patrick afraid of drowning? And he's like, they're cartoons, they can do anything. And Aaron is like, dude, no, you cannot tell little kids that. So he tells them, he's a sponge. Sponges don't swim. So yes, he's going to be afraid to drown. And, he's trying to get a driver's license because he can't swim anywhere, and he makes it fun. And part of why he makes it fun is because he had so much of that fun destroyed for him as a kid that he tries to keep the whimsy in there. There's just balance between the two. So he tells her, we'll hold this tea party for you and all the bears, and gets the whole band in on it. And it's really a turning point for him and Hawk, where Hawk starts to realize that, I can still have my music. Maybe I can't tour with the band, but I can write the songs, Aaron and I are a wonderful team with the kids. My band members that stayed and the new band members that come in want to be a part of this. They want to, embrace the kids as much as they want to, embrace having that invisible, not on stage fifth member of the band. And it really becomes this really cool found family story where you figure out how each character builds and fits as the secrets come out, and they start working together and they start being honest with one another about why they have either held one another at arm's length or are worried about certain things. And so I love getting to do these Rocktoberfest stories because it is the road to Rocktoberfest isn't just the road trip. It's literally how the band gets from that moment of their invitation to how they get themselves ready to perform that big show.
Got to get ready to take the stage.
Yes.
So, one of the best parts, and we've already kind of alluded to this a lot, so I can't help not going down this rabbit hole, is the question of what was your favorite rabbit hole as working on this particular project? What's something you tripped over? What's something you learned? What's something that, just digging into it, you were like, this is a lot of fun, whether that was learning, how do I really make those, those donuts? Or so Berta, I'm going to start with you on this one. What is a favorite rabbit hole or something you learned or something you tripped over? Something that came out of working on this particular project?
It wasn't donuts. I did do a lot of research on how bakers did and what kind of output you had to have in order to make a going concern. But I set this story during Piccolo Spoleto in Charleston. And so it was all the music venues, all this stuff to do. There's so much going on. I learned so much and I used none of it because it had I didn't want to clutter the story. It's a very short book. As cozy mysteries are not big, unlike Ginny's book, which is jam-packed. But this is
not that long. Trust me, I've written longer.
If you want to kill somebody off in Charleston, you have to do that during Fashion Week. Spoleto's too busy.
Too much going on. And they'd say, just put a clarinet in his mouth. It'll look normal.
But
as I take notes.
So what was because I've been to Spoleto, what was one of the things that you discovered on Spoleto that you just really wanted to work into the story?
Well, there's a lot of influencers that flocked there and want to do things. So what I did was I had a coffee blogger who is very famous, lands a deal with a Belgian cookie company and offers her a place of be my venue and we'll work together. And she does. Big mistake. But, the bodies start piling up and then, she has to work at figuring out why. And that was fun to do. But one of the things that I love is that you can walk down a street and there's a garden behind a little iron gate and there's a string quartet playing in there and somebody's standing there and says, just come on in. And it's a place you would normally not be allowed to go because folks in Charleston can be pretty stuffy, but everything is musical and everybody's welcome. And it's really cool. There's also a lot of haunted places there, and I want to go see those.
Well, yeah, it's Charleston. All right, Elle Marie, what's one of your favorite things that, what's one of the favorite rabbit holes you tripped on putting all these together? And I know how many years went into this, so.
Yeah. Well, I will say really quickly, I think it's hilarious how many people who don't write horror necessarily love to go on haunted stuff. Like, I'm not going to the haunted stuff. You all go right ahead. Enjoy that. I think there could be some truth to it. So I'm not going. I'm not going to tempt you off. Just tell me what you saw. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm just not. So every time I hear that, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But no, I'll tell you, I was trying to think, and I want to go back to the horror of hair because I got the chance to really look at like how hair is used in horror movies. And believe it or not, it really, I mean, if you think about, well, there's so many entries from Japanese horror movies that are outstanding, but then there's an African American movie called Bad Hair. And it's funny because I made a joke a long time ago, right? I made this joke years ago about how if you keep putting like, when you braid hair and it's really long down someone's like shin, that usually is, extension. So you're putting in the fake hair, or it's not necessarily synthetic though. It could be natural, like human hair. You don't know where that hair came from. And none of us asked that question. Okay.
Oh.
And the movie, like the hair became possessed and was killing, like on their heads, it was flying up and killing people. Man,
I love that.
When I got the chance to like watch movies, right? It's hilarious and it makes so much sense, does it not?
Yes. It's like that. Yes. It's like a take on that hand, the severed hand that they sew on and it goes around killing people. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly. The hair was on its own, just mobilizing and killing. It was amazing. And I'm just like, I never would have looked at that movie. Like I probably got around to it, but I wouldn't have, I was researching and I saw this movie. And it was like such a cool take because if you think about hair and what people do to it, everyone, I mean, we either braid it down or we're processing it with chemicals or we're hitting it with heat all the time to straighten or curl. Doesn't matter what. We are torturing this poor stuff on our head. And imagine if it was like, I'm not having it anymore. I'm not having it. Okay. So the research, and of course I went down just the black hole, rabbit hole, pit of no return, whatever. I was in there looking at hair stuff and finding and it was funny because I would find a really cool story, like a happy, I love my hair. And I'm like, that's not what I want. I'm looking for something evil. It was ridiculous. But the research was so rich and I didn't know what to expect. You know what I mean? I thought, I have a wacky idea. There's not going to be a lot out there. No, there's quite a bit. And it was exciting because hair has been used as tribute. I mean, you shave your head and you offer it. How do you know what happens with that hair after that? There's a whole documentary on, Chris Rock did a documentary about hair and the origin of this natural hair, because synthetic is, you can tell. I mean, I think if you braid your hair with synthetic and you braid your hair with natural, if it's close enough to your scalp, you can feel it. There's a feeling, And so a lot of people want to go with natural for certain styles, but where's it coming from? So it was really interesting. That has to be my favorite rabbit hole.
And the packages say virgin hair. Are they really virgins?
Like, what do you mean? And why do you know that? Why was that a question?
How do you know the person answered honestly? Yeah.
Well, before you threw them in the volcano.
Gel? It's Eco Styler gel.
Yeah. That green gel from the 70s. Now, remember that green slime from Ghostbusters where everything it touched, it came alive?
That's right.
Come on now.
Oh my God. Right. I've got a jar of Dippity Doo.
Yes.
That's what it's called.
Ectoplasm.
Good old Dippity Doo. I haven't thought about that for years. Thanks to these memories, girl.
Right? We're gonna go in our bathrooms and look at our hair products like with a side eye now. Like, I don't know.
Do I look like I'm using hair product? Do it.
I had a hairstylist once that collected vintage hair tools, and that was like torture stuff.
Yeah.
The one. Have you seen the old curling irons and you put it on the stove?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like two metal and you click it. That clicking I can hear in my dreams. That click, because you always had and it was right by your ear and it was hot. Yep. Oh God.
That's the inspiration for the clicking in Alien.
She still uses it?
My grandmother did still use it when I was a kid.
Yeah, yes. The chair was in the kitchen.
Yep.
The stove was on. This thing is sitting on the stove. And they click it next to you. But that's after they combed it with the hot comb that was also on the stove.
Yes.
Oh, the hot comb. Yeah, the hot comb.
Never was I so happy to have fine hair. When I went into my best friend in college into her room and she's on a hot plate, she's doing this. And I'm like, and I run back to my room and I bring her my curling iron. She's like, oh, my girl, you're so sweet, but it can't even, let me show you. And I'm like, right. Because it's doing nothing. My curling iron is like,
Right, yeah, it does nothing. The hot comb is king, but man is a torture device.
I was like, how do you not burn yourself? She's like, you learn really fast.
My grandmother tore my ears up. She did not burn me. She burned the mess out of me and burned everybody. Everyone burned themselves.
Right? Yeah. No.
Never. Jim, you're not participating in this talk. Come on.
I just feel the need right now to go shave my head. I
took my pathetic little fine hair white girl curling back, and I said, "It's okay, baby." And it cried, and then I put it away, and I said, "I'm going to go back now and make sure my friend doesn't burn the place down." She said no. After like the second time she burned herself, she never did it again. She was she was really good. But I'm like, how do you do this? She's like, this is how we have to. And I'm like, why? You don't go out and shoot people. I'm so proud.
Right? Oh my God. And then you go to sleep. You sleep like this, like up, so you don't mess your hair up.
I was like, why do you need a silk pillowcase? That's what I got her for Christmas. Okay, here's a silk pillowcase. I totally understand now.
We could do a whole panel about horror of hair.
That's what I'm hearing is we need to do a whole panel on horror of hair. Lisa, you're moderating.
Somewhere there we go. Like, isn't this supposed to be about their new books? No.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
So Layla,
in a way, it was. So
but so she's Layla, right? She wrote this essay, and it's universal. We're all related.
Yes, it is.
You want to see how terrified everyone on the panel is?
I don't have the same, but I've got hair horror stories.
Anyone who has hair, women, because our hair is not just on our head, it's ornament. It's a form of beauty, and some cultures really go in. Yeah. But we all, when we want to look nice, we want to look presentable, we're going somewhere, we're doing something with this stuff up here. Yes. And it means something. So if it were to animate, if it were to, and if it were used against us, it's body horror. And the connections are so interesting when you dive in. Yeah. Because, we live these things, so we all have a story, but then dive into what it can mean. Like I found out, and quickly I'll say, I found a movie where this person was, they were storing, the hair was growing within a shelled out body, and it was growing, but it came out of her eyes. Ew. And this is not, I didn't even spoil anything. So can you imagine if I just told you that disgustingness and I didn't spoil anything? Ridiculous. So yeah, it was wonderful.
Hey.
I can't stand finding a hair in my mouth. If it's growing out, I'd be like,
right?
Like my own hair. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, crone hair, any hair. Yeah, and the little crone hairs on your chin.
If I find that, I'm like, listen, that's it. I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, I'm not going to be around. If I found it, I'm not.
Exactly.
So Layla, yes. What rabbit hole did you trip over in playing with your heavy metal rockers this time?
Actually, this is fun. I fell into two because when I started the book last year, for last year's Rocktoberfest, I tried to do something I'd never done in one of my other books, and that was tell two love stories in the same book, but it wasn't a love story between the two characters. It was two different characters on their journey. Fail. There weren't enough pages. One couple only had about 16K out of a 96K book. Needless to say, that's part of why that book was put away last year. And with 33 days before deadline, I wrote an entirely new 65K Road to Rocktoberfest book and talked about it on the journey on the show.
I was on panel with you when you were in the middle of that. So I know exactly what the look in your eyes that you did it. You had that. Your eyes are like really wide.
Oh my gosh.
Really, I'm gonna do it. We're all like,
I'm doing the hot off the press because it comes out in 2 weeks. I just got to finish it tomorrow.
That was amazing. And I'm like, awfully bold of you, Cotton.
Well, not only did I write that last minute book, but it ended up being a throuple, and it ended up being one of my best-selling rock star romances.
Of course.
So this year's book is that book from last year with every other chapter rewritten and every chapter retooled to do it right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it gave me, when I started fiddling with it, I think I was at 86K. I had it down to 50. It's got 2,000 more words to be written. It'll be done tonight, and it'll be back to 88. So we see how that worked out for me.
Oh
So a
my
lot of
goodness.
but and that was my big rabbit hole, was just learning, okay, that didn't work for me. I have a process that does. I need to stick with my process that really works to tell my stories with my rotating chapters, because as ambitious as it did not come together the way that I hoped. It was very disjointed, and it felt like a film shot out of sequence. So that was my biggest lesson. But my second biggest lesson was researching modified drum kits for a disabled drummer. My drummer, the new drummer, the replacement drummer in the band, is in a wheelchair. He was in a snowmobile accident, probably about 8 years before the start of the book. He's a fabulous, amazing drummer. But there's struggle between him and Aaron, because Aaron's like, how do we get him on stage at the big festivals? How do we get him on a tour bus? How do we but it comes across so wrong, and Aaron has to deal with how he approached it. But the new drummer, he really has to look at he jumped to the conclusion immediately that, okay, he doesn't want me to play with him because he doesn't think I'm good enough. Aaron was the first person during the blind audition to say how awesome he was, but he's immediately thinking about the logistics. And part of the reason he's thinking about the logistics is because one of the people in the home he grew up raised by grandparents, and his grandfather is in a wheelchair. And Aaron, as a small, as a 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old, could not maneuver that chair where the grandfather wanted to go, and he was not nice about it. And it was very hard. And so Aaron is immediately, he's a character that is used to being told he's messed up even when he hasn't. So he's automatically on edge and afraid, not of the drum. Like, he never looks at Declan until near the end of the book. He only sees the chair. And from Declan's point of view, he's seeing, okay, he doesn't see me as good enough. So their storyline as they come together is about perception and, how you react to somebody when you meet them versus how you react to somebody when you're only hearing or seeing something about them. Aaron chose him during the blind audition immediately over his friend, that later on he's like, yeah, no, you know what? Let me back this up. I'd rather Cassie play for us. It's not about Cassie being a better player. He knows Cassie. Cassie's been on the road with them. He doesn't have to feel like he's going to mess up with Cassie playing with them. He's safe. Mm-hmm. And so that was just something, researching that drum kit just to see how feasible and how I was going to pull this together really got that storyline flowing more. But it also, those chapters that had to be rewritten gave me so much more interaction between band members that was missing from last year's book. I'm so glad it did not turn out right last year, and that I had to take another year of more research and more writing and more exploring the characters to get it to where it all came together the way it did.
And the self-awareness to know it needed that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I had a very amazing beta. I choose my betas because when I first started, I had a mentor who was like, you do not want a beta who's going to tell you it's good. You want a beta who's going to tell you everything that needs to be improved and anything that's wrong. Mm-hmm. So I gave it to a beta that I trusted, and she immediately came back and was like, every fear you wrote in the list you gave me is spot on. You need to fix this. And I was like, thank you, because you did not just come out and say, oh, I loved this and that. She told me the things she loved, but she told me all the things that didn't work.
So, Jenny, knowing that you have baked decades and decades of Wild West research into this one, what was your favorite rabbit hole to finally get this book out the door?
The book has been ready for years. Okay. the book that just got out the door is Aliens Like Us, with 17 in the Alien series. I wrote the end on Saturday. It's with the Crit Partners and the beta team right now. There is much rejoicing in the household. This book is the reason I write. Okay, so I started writing on this, and I named the versions like software. So version 9.2.2 is what sold to Graphic Audio a couple of years ago. And version 9.2.3 is what sold to Ginger Blue Publishing. Okay. So to get the book out the door was more to get somebody who actually believed in it and understood what I was doing with it out there. I mean, there's all, like I said, see all those books? That's my very expensive rabbit hole. I get Old West stuff all the time. It really ruins watching a lot of television and movies that are set in the Old West and how wrong they are. I will give you all a tidbit. No one, and I do mean exactly no one in the Old West, ever tied their gun holster around their leg. That is a Hollywood technique. And the Hollywood technique is because if your gun's swinging, it's going to ruin the shot, because the eye will go to the movement. Okay. Think about it. Okay. I'm riding the range and I have a gun holster on my hip. And if that holster can't swing down as I sit, my gun's in the dirt immediately. My gun's in the dirt before I even mount my horse. So there's a lot of stuff that you learn that makes you, I accept the leg tie because I totally understand how to do it. But there are movies I can't watch now where I think the most interesting point is everybody's ages during the Old West. Most of these people are very young, and they're not portrayed as young in the movies and the television shows we see. They're portrayed as, maybe you see a young'un, okay? If you think of Silverado, which is a wonderful Western, Kevin Costner's character is like the youngest, but in the reality of the Old West, he'd be the oldest, okay? There's just, Wyatt Earp is like 30, maybe. I mean, they're young. These people are young when they're starting and getting their reputations and everything else. The Old West is a very brief period of time too. And it does, I'm not as good on the Civil War as I am on the Old West, but you actually have to learn a lot about the Civil War, especially the end of the Civil War, in order to write Old West, because they merge into each other. So that, I just fell down one of the biggest rabbit holes we've got, which is Western stuff. I already knew how to ride, and I prefer Western saddle over Eastern, so that's easy. And because I like to be comfortable as opposed to be, looking good. And there's just a lot of things. How many people knew each other, I guess, would be my most interesting rabbit hole, because it most directly affected this book. Everyone knew each other. Everyone, okay? Or they at least knew of each other. Why? Again, you've got 6 non-Indians against an entire Indian nation that really hates your guts. And the longer that went on, the more that happened. The West has a different version of its discrimination, because honestly, it didn't matter if you were white, black, or Mexican, as long as I could trust you to cover my back if we're attacked by a scorpion, a rattlesnake, an Apache tribe, some Navajos who got seriously pissed, whatever. So it really stamped that part of the country with a different attitude from other parts of the country. But people were writing together much more than the movies show us. Okay, you had absolutely diverse teams going out together, because it was like, hey, that Mexican guy, he saved my life. You won't say anything about him. I'll punch your teeth down your throat. He's my part. You're just some dude. And then the very real thing that you could be in one county and you're a wanted criminal and a hanging offense, and the next county you're the law, because that county went and said, hey, you can kill people and keep them from hurting us Would you like a badge and a little paycheck? So all of this stuff is all intermingled, and yeah, they're borders and they're aware of them. They're landmarks you can look at and stuff. But in those days, yeah, maybe you were in the New Mexico territory and now you're in the Arizona territory, and good luck to you. I hope you're near the rock formation that lets you know that. So in the deserts. And when you look at things like, Lincoln County with Billy the Kid and all the things that are going on, you see what's happening. Billy the Kid in that is actually trying to be a good boy, and he's on the right side. But because that side loses, suddenly he's a bad guy. And that's one of the things that I like to play with, is that it really only mattered. My favorite thing, which I learned while I was doing live research, if you go into southern Arizona, in the Tucson, OK Corral, Bisbee, Tombstone areas, they hate, and I do mean hate, the Earps in Hollywood for, and I quote, murdering our young men. Okay, as far as the people that lived there went, generationally, the Clantons, the McLarrys, all these people, Curly Bill Brocious, these were decent guys. They were our boys. They were not doing anything wrong till those murderers came in. There's only one plot. There's only one point that everyone agrees on every side. Ike Clanton was a coward. That's it. It just depended on who you knew, where you were standing at any given time. It just was really interesting. So I loved all of my giant sink of a. It took me 10 years to get this book. I keep holding up the cover because I really do love the cover. I get 10 years, and a physical book, finally, okay? It took way more than 10 years to get a physical book. It took me 10 years to write the version that sold, and I learned to write on it. So it has, this book matters to me more than any other for a variety of reasons. And there's just so many movies I can't watch now. I scream at the screen. Winchester 77. You want to hear something? You want to hear a woman use every profanity ever known? Show me the first third of that movie. The second and third thirds of the movie are great, but in the first third, in 1977, we're meeting. Oh, it's Wyatt Earp, and he's a little old man. He's 27 years old. Okay, in reality, how hard was it to look in a book? Okay.
Right.
And they're portraying him and Virgil are like, this ancient man. Virgil isn't even in there. He's running Prescott at the time. And I'm just like flames. I'm shrieking. My family got that for me as a present because I'd never seen the first third. I only caught the second and third, and I loved it. And they're like, we're so glad we bought you something that you hate now. No, I'm just going to start it right where I caught it every time. Oh, are we done with Dodge City? Now the rest of this movie is great.
Well, now that we've tripped down those rabbit holes.
You asked, man. You're the one who asked.
Yeah, I'll never learn. But never. Before we get out of here, let's make sure everybody knows where to find you guys, website, social media, and of course, where to find the book. So Layla, you're up first.
So you can find me at my website at wix.com, Layla Dorine author. You can find me on Facebook, Insta, sometimes on TikTok. I have Rainbow Lyrics and Mellow Mushrooms. That's my blog. It'll be on hold for the next month because I'll be kind of traveling and away from home. Broken Chorus comes out October 22nd. So you can find it. It will be on Amazon and it will be in KU indefinitely. All over Oktoberfest, we're keeping those series these years in KU for our readers.
Jenny?
My website is GiniKoch.com. You can find me all over Facebook. I'm on X, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Pinterest. It looks like I'm Instagram, but I'm really not. Please stop sending me messages. I don't see them. I just get alerts. Natural Born Outlaws, book 1 and Legend of Belladonna is available Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Apple Books, anywhere where I'm in person. And it's with some small independent bookstores whose names I didn't intelligently write down, so I can't remember who. But pretty much you can find it anywhere, both in ebook and physical. And the trade, it's out in hardback right now. I got a hard sell. It's out in hardback right now. The trade releases, I want to say, February or March next year. You'd think I would know, but you would be wrong. Anyway, trade paperback releases early next year.
You know how publishers are.
No, they know. I'm just like, la, la, la. Oh, it'll happen when it happens.
Berta?
My website, bertaplatas.com, is undergoing a rebranding exercise. So sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. But I put up a quick brochure site for this series called baycornerscozy.com, and that's where you can find me.
Elle-Marie?
My website is elmariewood.com. I'm on X, which is with X or Twitter, with one of those. Same thing.
Right? X Twitter.
Same thing. I'm still there. I don't.
No, X, no, I wasn't saying no. I was saying it's X.
Are you saying X? Well, I'm on that.
Like a
that's hilarious. That's hilarious. Facebook and Instagram. I think Facebook and Twitter and TikTok now are all Elle-Marie Wood, but Instagram is LM Woody. I'm really trying to get better with Instagram. So I'm trying to be there. But yeah, you can find me there. I have a blog. You can find it on my website. It's called Random Musings, and that's where I am. Oh, the book is going to be available, an ebook, in audiobook as well, but I can't tell you the date. That's gone. October, for me, it's coming soon though. October 4th is
Are you narrating it?
I am. This time I did. First time ever. Well, because I figured my humor has to come through and no one's going to catch my jokes the way so I said it myself. It was fun. That was a lot of fun. But definitely the paperback's coming out and the ebook are coming out on the 4th. There's going to be hardcover and audiobook coming soon. I just don't know those dates, Jeannie. I just realized when you said it, I didn't know either. Right. So, but everywhere, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, a couple of bookstores physically. I think Vortex is going to have it. But anywhere online, and you can definitely order. If you've got a local bookstore, you can order from there too, and they'll bring it in their store. So do that. Let's support the local bookstores.
And you can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentialsworkshops.com, creatingpros.com, and of course, here at ConTinual. And we will see you guys again soon. Go stack up those to-be-read piles and go find out what those little rabbit holes all created in these stories.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.